we did Apollo 11 before on the LEM. This is on Apollo 12, and I did not find this. From the last video we did, there was a comment made, sarcastic. He made a comment underneath the video we were doing, and we did have the Apollo 12 LEM up there, and they had a service bay that they had taken some equipment out of, like the laser reflector and stuff, out of the first quadrant that houses the helium tank, so there is no service bay there. So here are the photographs coming down. I'll just run through the sequence. So you have this one, then he's coming down the ladder, coming through. Of course, they're offset a little bit, the ladder, and this one is not directly in the shadow. It's a little off to the side. I guess it swung around a little bit on the gantry crane. So he gets down to the bottom of the ladder, and then they start showing the other photographs here. And if you'll note, that little piece where the paint is peeled off there, you'll see that in the other ones. They're using the same LEM over and over again. You'll see that on Apollo 11 as well, that same paint missing right on that same spot. Now, we get to here and take this in. Take a note of the tape line here, where the struts are, even the shadow, and then you'll see it's kind of wet here, down, and it just kind of overlaps here. There's no tape here at all, and there's tape, but it's not stuck along there. There's a tag right here, no tape down here of any kind, and when you get down here, there's a piece of equipment that sticks out that they have wrapped in, and it is taped. There is a tape line across here, but not down here. This hasn't been touched yet. This particular photograph is the first image on this side. There are no footprints here whatsoever. You can see that. This is the first thing. You can see how wet it is here. You can see it's so wet down here that it's not even reflecting light, and across here it's not reflecting light off the aluminum. That's why in Apollo 14 they just simply removed it, because it was all covered in mold. Another shot of it there. Again, no footprints anywhere along there. And now they've opened up the service bay and they're taking the equipment out. And I must note that through the sequence, the activity that the astronauts are doing are in sequence. So we're going to come up here and have a look. And this is what is going to be notable. There are the two struts. The other photograph, the tar paper here, came all the way across and down. The one door is opened. The other panel is completely removed off. This now is sitting up here. This protrusion is now sitting up here, above the door. You can see that strut there. The tape line is wrapped across. This is still untouched up here. This is completely different than what the other panels had.
Yeah.
So now he's taken the equipment down. The next one is just in the sequence of it, showing the panel down. Now he's going to take the nuclear core for the RTG out of here. And now we get right to here. You can see all of the equipment is down on the ground. The tethers are down, and the panels have been put back on. Not only put back on, but they're now taped up. This piece that was sticking out down here was up here in the other photograph. The panel only came from here across and down. So why would the astronauts, or how could they, get up here? Because they would have to retape this line back in up here. The activity's in sequence, yet this has been completely put back together. They've had to redress this set for whatever reason. I think it's because they had to stop for the rain.
What about that stitched sticker that's in the top?
Okay, the sticker is there from the first photograph. This panel in the original did not have a sticker there and was not taped together.
What about the one on the top, though? That sticker's vanished now. It's not there.
This piece of material here was moved up to here. And as you go through these photographs, it doesn't matter what, you can see how wet it is. But you can see this piece that's sticking out here. And there is some equipment in behind that when you look at it. He's finished taking it down. The tethers are down, And all of this is closed back up and taped back together.
Right, but that one sticker is still gone.
It is gone. Here, I've got two together. This piece up here that's now sticking out, this is above the door. This aluminum arm sticking out here is this arm here. And this panel stops right there at the edge of it, coming down right there instead of coming all the way across. This sticker is here. It's not shown in that one on the back of the picture, and this sticker is there. But as you can see, on this arm here, up here, there is no sticker up here. That sticker is right there. And it should be right there.
Wow, so where did it go?
That's the original before it's touched. That's when they first came up to it before any footprints are there. No tape on the door across, one sticker right there. There's no tape over here either on it. And this panel sits out down here at the bottom, sticks out.
Yeah.
This particular piece got moved up to here above the door and just stuck there. I've looked at the other photographs through the sequence, anywhere you're looking through any of these other ones, when they're doing that, when it's down, that's open. This other panel here, okay, isn't on the ground anywhere. Why it got up to here is beyond me. When it was down here, there is a piece that sticks out right there. But now it's up here. And now the sticker's on it there. See, and a piece of tape on this side.
Yep.
So they put this back together. The astronauts could not have done it. They had to stop for whatever reason, probably because it was raining too hard. Well, if you're seeing how wet it is, right? Here's the very last shot of the sequence. And now you're going to see something even more interesting. This is the side of the panels is put back together. They've taken the equipment away. They've removed the canister from here on it. All of the tethers are down, and there's no footprints here at all. Been redressed one more time.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
You saw all of the activities the astronauts are doing, all the activities out here, but this whole area in here, where they were standing to pull all this out, where they're putting all the equipment together, there are no footprints here at all.
And those are in sequence.
These are in sequence. The activity is in sequence. But you can see that. This is all put back together. There's no way. There's a tape line up at this height here that has been put back on. The astronauts could not have put that back on. They retaped it. You can see where they retaped it there. But you can see that's all put back in. There's a sticker there and a sticker there. On the tape's now missing from there again. All kinds of little things, but you can see that right down there. No activity whatsoever.
No, it's completely bare. Like it's been swept.
It's been redressed. The activity is clear. They've taken the equipment out. The tethers are there, still hanging down. And this is all put back together. Impossible. Absolutely impossible.
On that previous picture, Scott,
Yeah?
in the center of that, why is there so much mylar inside that doorway? That's what it looks like. Half the doorway's in place, or half the coverage of it, but you've got mylar behind it.
It sits out a foot or so here, so there's mylar down the side of it. Just on that side,
Yeah, that's right.
this base sticks out.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, it sticks out a bit. That's on the side, and you'll see that in this one as well. There it is there with it open.
All right, okay, yeah.
Okay, that's the part that's there. But as you can see, this piece that's taped in here got moved up to there and taped in.
Yeah.
Why would the astronauts do that? It's impossible. The panel just didn't get slid up there.
No.
That's taped on. Then it gets put back down again. And it's not like the images are out of sequence because the activity is in sequence. They've taken the equipment out, and you go to the next photograph, they're taking it out there yet, and then there they are. Now they're going to go to the next part of the sequence, which is to bring this down, and it's all put back together right there and taped.
It seems illogical to put all that back together after you've removed the items from inside that storage.
Yes, because it's going to stay behind.
It's all going to stay behind. You don't need to do that. So why was it done?
It's a complete waste of time. Well, like I said, look at how wet this stuff is. Look at how wet the ground is here. You start looking. Like, this is mud right down here. Look at his boots. Mud. Completely soaking wet panels. But it's the way it's put back together. They had to tape it in. They had to retape this line up here. They had to tape all of this in here. Those guys can't get up there just like that.
No.
Number one. And number two, why would they do it?
But they didn't have Captain tape with them to do that. They couldn't have retaped all of that.
They never had anything like that. But you can see that the activity is in sequence. They come up, they open the bay doors, they take the equipment out, it's laying on the ground, the tethers are laying down, and this is put back together. They must have closed it up because it was raining too hard or something when they were shooting it. Everything is soaking wet. So they closed it back off again. And then they just left it closed. As you go through the sequence, there's the equipment coming down. Everything's in proper sequence. Look at how wet this thing got down here.
Yeah.
Just from the previous photographs. Absolutely soaking wet. Complete simulation error. And it's huge. And of all of the stuff I have found, I did not find this. Somebody else pointed it out. And that is what's in the photographs. And there's absolutely no way anybody can justify and or explain why. These panels, there they are. He's got the equipment. They're going to take them out and load them up. The tethers are down, and it's all put back together. And there's no way they came up and retaped that line.
And that sticker is also missing.
The two stickers are there now. There was a sticker up here. When the service bay doors were open, this was open here, there was a sticker up here as well.
All right, then can those panels be moved? Can they be moved from the bottom to the top and top to the bottom?
No. This one opens up and this one just gets removed. And they wouldn't be removing it and sticking it up there so they could put it back on again.
Well, how high is that? 6.5 feet?
12 feet to the top here.
No, I mean down to the bottom where that Captain tape was supposed to have got all the way across. That must be about, 6.5 feet? They couldn't have reached that.
They can't reach higher than their helmet. Complete simulation error.
It's hard not to find anomalies when you look hard enough. And you know the sequence, and you've got all the PDFs, you've got all the Lunar Surface Journal records, which indicate what happened every second of the time they were on the lunar surface. You compare it all, and a lot of stuff is missing because you can see evidence of activity, like putting those panels back, but that's not mentioned in the Lunar Surface Journal. It would take a while to do it if they could, they need a step ladder to get up there. They haven't got one.
And somebody to assist to hold it in place, and then redress the set, get rid of all the footprints at the very end so it's all nice and clean. I don't know if it's being done for the shot. I don't know whether the photographers were taking artistic license and the stage production is being set up to create a very good shot and forgetting the fact that it's supposed to be original. It's supposed to be original sequence. I think they got caught in the rain, to tell you the truth. And then they had the set guys come out and redress it, and they put it all back together.
Well, it's very well spotted, whoever it was who identified that.
He goes by the name of Sarcastic, and he's underneath, making comments underneath it. I mean, that's a great find. I mean, that's up there with Buzz Aldrin, that particular sequence. Yeah. It's so ridiculous to think. And to redress the set, to get rid of all of the footprints. I mean, they just aren't there at the very end of that.
Yeah, well, see, when you have all the equipment out, you can't go back and say, well, this came first and that came second. No, the equipment is slowly being taken out. Now you've got the ropes hanging down.
Yeah.
Now you've got all the footprints there, and then you go to the very last sequence, and guess what? Now there's no footprints, but yet everything else is out there. They can't say that they're not out of sequence, rather, because they will say that we take them out of sequence. No.
Yeah.
Here's the proof.
No, the activity is in full sequence, which means the filming of it and the photography of it are in sequence. But what has happened in there, they've had to stop and redress that set. And whether it stopped for rain or they stopped for lunch or the Playboy girls came along, and they had to do a little photo op there, it doesn't matter what interrupted them. Somebody redressed that set while they were away from it, and then they came back and continued to film.
Because that set had to be out in the open to get the sun angles, because that couldn't have been illuminated with one spotlight.
Those particular ones of them coming down the ladder, even the first part of that sequence, you see him there, he's in the sunlight. But when he's coming down from the inside shots of the thing, he's not in the sunlight.
Yeah, that's true.
Whoever was shooting from inside the LEM at those first ones, just as his helmet coming out of there, he should have been in the sunlight for those, because the outside shots of him coming down, he is in the sunlight.
Well, he's lit up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. It's amazing how reflective this surface is, isn't it? Whatever surface they were using, whatever material they were using, because you can buy artificial moon surface material. I mean, Tom Hanks did it when he shot Apollo 13. Most people have done it. I mean, there are companies in America that sell artificial moon rock.
Yeah, Jared White purchased 20 pounds of it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can buy 20 kilos. That was quite a bit. And he found it and walked around in it and showed the effect it had. There's so much that is inconsistent with what we would expect to see. That's the problem. And I think what's important is the work that you've done, Robert, in posting these films so that people can look at them, comment on them. There'll be more and more people come forward with additional pieces of information.
That's why these talks here are really important, because more people are seeing this stuff.
They are.
And all of a sudden, now you have all these other people that have been looking and looking, and they say, hey, wait a minute, this isn't right. Why are those panels back on? Why is that tape back up there? Those guys couldn't have jumped up there. And where did the tape come from? Did they bring Captain Tape to tape the top of the panel? Well, where did that sticker go? It's the same one as before, and yet where did the sticker go? It's gone. Like, there's all these anomalies that are happening, and then now you look, and the footprints are gone. So the whole thing has been readdressed, obviously, and those photos are all in sequence because that equipment is out there.
Yeah, it is. And of course, nobody thought that 50 years after the event, somebody would be sitting in front of a high-definition computer screen looking at the photographs in sequence and identifying the anomalies and the inconsistencies that go into the whole thing. Because the more you look, the more you find. You find so much of it, Scott. So many details.
There's so many details in the photographs themselves. Some of them are small and hard to see. Those nice big ones, like Buzz Aldrin in that door frame, you realize that is just a prop.
Yeah.
Because there's no console, there's nothing to run that machine. If the console's not there, then the engine doesn't need to be there. And he's right up against that door frame, and it shows you it's a prop, and then you realize that, gee, they didn't take any photographs inside of that machine. They only needed that prop to have the ladder coming down to make the shot. And then it shows you how cheaply and quickly that they were putting these together. Their focus had to be on trying to get that giant rocket off the ground without blowing up. I mean, that's where their focus had to be all the time. They had to guarantee 7 times that thing took off the ground.
Because that was the thing that everybody watched. On Apollo 11, there were 1 million people at Cocoa Beach watching this thing take off. It had to take off. It had to be seen to leave human sight. And 2 minutes after it took off, it didn't matter what happened. NASA will tell us what happened, but it doesn't mean to say that's what really happened.
And when you look at the Parrots, and now we can go to the Parrots, if you listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson, it's got 7 million pounds of thrust and this and that and the other, and look at all of that fuel. It had enough fuel to go anywhere. It had enough fuel to go to the moon. No, it didn't. The first stage ran for 2 minutes and 42 seconds, and it was done, and that's 80% of the fuel that was on board. And after 9 minutes, it's empty.
And so will your pockets. They will empty your pockets because they charge anywhere from $100,000 to $150,000 for one appearance.
We looked it up. Brian Cox is 100 to 200,000. Neil deGrasse Tyson is 100 to 200,000. Bow tie guy, he's what, 75,000? That's virtual or just to have him on a video. That's what they're charging.
Why did they charge so much? I mean, that's quite a lot of money. It's almost as much as Bill Clinton got for making a public speech.
Well, we never looked up how much he charged. Robert has a website on that shows how much these celebrities charge to make an appearance.
Who is making money out of Apollo?
Well, the government certainly is, because they make a huge pile of money from the museums. This latest video out there is addressing another problem about being on the moon and that positive and negative charge that's there. It's showing that as the sunlight, as the cosmic rays are coming across, especially on the sunlit area, the negative is drawn to the lunar surface and the positive charge stays above. And when you cross over that, if you were coming down on a craft, they're not talking about getting a little bit of a static electricity discharge here. They're talking about hundreds of volts that would literally fry the craft. When you see that and watching that video and realize that none of that has been addressed in anything to do with Apollo. This is discoveries that have happened later on. This wasn't done. The suits would have to be designed, the craft would have to be designed to be able to deal with it. The location of where you're going to land on the lunar surface is going to have to be addressed as to where you're going to get the least amount of discharge from going through there. Yep. And of course, there's no way to ground the craft hovering over top of the surface. The longer you hover over, the higher the charge is going to be on the craft.
That reminds me of the Hindenburg.
Yeah.
That is exactly what happened when they tossed the grounding strap down.
Yeah, it just put the charge right through and away it goes. One of the problems that was never addressed during that Apollo region, it's not a small problem. Even when they're faking it there, the fact that there's absolutely no way they could simulate the photoelectric charge of the lunar dust, because if they disturbed it in any way, shape, or form, it's going to levitate. It's going to stay levitated until the sunlight comes off of it and the charge disperses. And they've talked about that in other articles that other people have talked about, the sunlight levitating the lunar dust up to 2 kilometers above the surface. When you land and you disturb that soil, it's not coming back down the entire length of time you're there. It's not going to come back down until the sunlight is off that surface. The photoelectric charge in it levitates it off the surface just from sunlight striking it. That is the whole point. It levitates it off the surface without it being disturbed. Imagine if you disturb it. It's going to shoot up and it's not coming back down. Not while you're there.
But it's going to still come back down in time, has to, gravity.
When the sunlight stops striking that surface, then the photoelectric charge will disperse and it'll come back down again.
Well, that's kind of strange with the rover kicking up all of that dust. I mean, it's throwing out fishtails of it, and it's falling down pretty fast.
It's falling down at the speed of Earth's gravity, as it does off the boots, or when they're scooping a sample into their bag and you see it fall down. Any of the videos, it just falls to the ground, right? None of that photoelectric charge could be simulated. You'd need today's technology to be able to simulate that effect. But it is unfortunate that we have all of these people out there that are promoting NASA, especially to our children, and they're giving them the impression that all of this stuff not only happened, but it's simply quite capable. And you're taking very intelligent minds and you are putting not only the concept or the idea, and even at a university level, they're teaching them mathematical theories and things like that that actually don't work. If they decide to go into a space program or whatever, they're going to be confronted with all of these problems that haven't been resolved. They won't be able to contribute to the space program or science program or anything else, and the only thing that you can do with these people is turn them into parrots. And like I say, you take that Veritism and physics girl, right? Yeah. And I mean, she's very enthusiastic, Amy Sherrill, things like that. They're very enthusiastic people, and they're out there, they're promoting it, they're promoting education, they're doing everything that's positive. But at the same time, the basis on which they're doing it is complete fraud.
And they don't know it because they haven't the education to identify it.
Yeah, but this physics girl, I mean, she's got, I think, 2.5 million subscribers. It's coming out of MIT, Minions in Training. And because they realize that she doesn't have the ability to contribute to the scientific thing, they still give her a PhD, people having delusions, and put her out there as a parrot. And they can give her a mathematical formula that anybody can see is just wrong. What she does with that formula. And of course, the one that really gets me is where she just takes mass on one side of a formula and mass on the other side. And the difference in the numbers of the mass are incredible. Like 900,000 pounds on one side and 400 pounds on the other. And because you turn them into a letter and call it M for mass, then M and M, and they just cancel them out. Right? Now they're equal, and they're not equal. And she does that. And if she's educated, then she's doing it knowingly. And if they gave her a PhD because they knew she was going to be a good parent and doesn't understand what she's doing, it doesn't matter. She's out there doing it for them. And she's just one example. Veritism does exactly the same thing using the same formula. And of course, if you look him up, and you'll see Gravity Has No Force is the video he puts up. But doing the same thing, removing the mass of the object out there, he uses the same formula. And when you remove the mass from the formula, you remove the kinetic energy. Yeah. And it's the kinetic energy against the object, against gravity, that gives the equilibrium that creates something to be in orbit. So without the mass, then gravity has no force because it can't act against anything that doesn't have a mass. Simple as that.
Yeah.
If he's doing it honestly, he's bullshitting himself, but at the same time, he's just bullshitting everybody out there. And if they're teaching that in schools, nobody can contribute scientifically because they're being taught things that are just simply wrong. They become useless. They become parrots.
They just repeat what they're told to say.
That's right.
Just like parrots.
And they're enthusiastic about it.
Oh yeah, well, you can be enthusiastic about it because you don't know that you're wrong. So because you're enthusiastic, you must be believed. Because you wouldn't be enthusiastic if you were wrong, would you?
No.
So people will believe them, and that's the tragedy of it. I mean, we've got a similar situation over here in the UK to teaching history. There are only two major subjects taught in schools today in history. They're called the two H's. I mean, if somebody said to you, right, we're going into history, and we're going to talk about Henry VIII, that's sort of 1500s, and Hitler, that's 1900s, what happened between those two people? They don't teach that. What happened before that? What happened after that? The study of history will tell you what happened, and will also enable you to find out what may well happen in the future. We were seeing history repeated right now in the Ukraine, where there's all sorts of appeasement ideas. Oh, we got to appease Russia. Well, that was the problem with Hitler. We tried to appease him. And look what happened.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at that elderly lady. She had been through Auschwitz, and she says, I can't believe this. It's happening again.
And what's that famous thing about never again? We must remember what happened so it can never happen again.
Yeah.
It's happening again.
Because it's being either taught wrong or it's just being forgotten.
It's the same with these politicians. It's I'm sorry, but it's all talk, no action. We have to fix the atmosphere. We have to do this. Well, yeah, we have to do it, but how come you guys aren't taking the lead? You're the ones that have all the resources and the means to funnel money into different projects, but not that. Anything but that, heavens.
When I hear them speak or I read what they write, I think they don't actually know very much because they're making statements which are completely incorrect in terms of describing what's happened on Apollo, describing how rockets fly, describing how rockets are supposed to get to the moon. I mean, very few people know, or appear to know, that if you're going to launch a rocket to the moon, you've got to accelerate to 25,000 miles an hour. And that's the second stage. We'll do that. If you don't know what escape velocity is, you would immediately assume, because the moon is 250,000 miles away, in round numbers, and the rocket is going at 25,000 miles an hour, well, why doesn't it take 10 hours to get there? Because of gravity is pulling it back, and the rocket is not being propelled. So you've got all these things which appear to be sensible questions and reasonable comments to make, which are not, because these people just don't know what they're talking about. And it's tragic, really, because if they're now instructing school children who don't know the real facts, because they can't know it, they haven't been taught it, they will make mistakes. And those mistakes will become grounded. And if the mistakes are such that they don't equate to the scientific examination of any subject, then they're going to find complete problems in moving forward. They won't be able to move forward because they don't have the background in the science required to move forward, which is one of the things I reckon is causing a problem right now at NASA, that are having terrible trouble getting their rocket off the ground. I mean, this is a 30-year-old rocket. It's nothing new. They haven't built anything new. That's the SLS, the Slow Latent Spencer rocket. They're using space shuttle engines in the rocket, 4 of them, which is a reasonable thing to do if it's reliable and it works. But you put 4 together and you're going to get completely different dynamics as the thing takes off. You then try to get the thing off the ground. Well, they haven't got it off the ground yet. They haven't got it off the ground yet. Why not? Not.